Good morning or afternoon, professionals, whenever you're watching or even listening to this video. This is Tracy Brown here. I know you all know me, but thanks for coming. Since this has been a week, a little bit of talking about food journaling and packing people's just behavior stuff, all that kind of good stuff. We're going to talk about our clients who, for very good reasons, don't want a food journal. And we're going to talk about the reasons for that. And if you're not a clinician or coach or practitioner who ever uses food journaling, that's fine. And I'll tell you what I tell my clients who don't feel comfortable with that. So those of you who have done my course know that I tell my clients I don't require them to food journal, but I do say that those that do, at least at the beginning, at least in the first, honestly, couple months, we get a lot of information. And it helps us move forward a little bit quicker. I'll just be honest. I think that people do make progress a little bit faster when they do journal. But I understand that there are clients, so let's just talk about the clients that they can't. And I don't want to use the word won't, because when people won't, they're saying there's a boundary there that is, I don't want to do that. And there's good reason. And you can imagine the reasons. It feels like dieting. It feels like being watched. Maybe they just quit doing that 2 weeks before they came to your first appointment, and they're like, oh, I don't want to do this again. So those are all good reasons. And I never force anybody to do it, but I just say, I actually teach people how to do my journals. And, even if they choose not to do them, I show them how to do it. And I'll tell them, this is the reason for this column, this column, this column. This is the information we're getting from it, and this is what we do with it. And for some people are like, yeah, I'm still feeling pretty hesitant to do it. And I said, that's fine. We're going to do our best to recall that and try to get through at least some days of your intake just from your memory, and we'll do the best we can with that. Because if we're teaching intuitive eating, we actually need to look at people's food and know what they're doing. And this is how you can easily get caught up in this is what's happened to me. I'll have clients that kind of want to talk about all kinds of other things, and sometimes they come to you straight for body image, and maybe that's what you're going to work on at the beginning. But eventually what will start to creep in is if they do have any dysregulation in their eating, they'll start to get frustrated with feeling like things aren't progressing. And I'll say, I haven't really had a chance to look at your food in a really long time. I know we haven't reviewed it since maybe the first or second session, and I can't really give you any analysis or assessment on how attuned your eating is, because we haven't talked about it. If that's something, I would love to dig into that with you if you're interested. And at that point, that usually will get people to think at least, let's give it a shot. Now, I do journaling in all kinds of ways for people who don't want to actually write it down and show me. They can send, personally, my clients, I use different apps. I use the Voxer app. For my clients who do both individual sessions and Voxer tech support, they'll send me pictures of their food with hunger and fullness numbers around it, and satisfaction, and anything that's going on around that. So we can keep, and that's a different package that I offer people. So it could be just individual sessions, but I also offer individual plus that support, because some people want that level. They want to kind of, either they need that much support to stay on track, or they're just people I want to get in there and get this done, and I want to crank, and so that people usually choose those. So anyway, there's all kinds of ways to get the information about the food, so it doesn't have to be a written journal. And I'll give you one more tip, and I've talked to my other some of my professionals in the training. There's all kinds of ways to get food journals or get information about food, but essentially, I'll put a link of my food journal guide below here if you don't already have it. But something I'll do, let me see if I can grab one real quick if I have one in front of me. I don't know that I do, but, oh, maybe I do. Let's see. One second. Nope, I don't have one. And I have to dig around for it in my file cabinet, so I don't want to do that. But a lot of times what will happen is that it's really a struggle to want to look at their food. But instead what we can do, so let's say, for example, you have a client, I don't want to look at my food, I don't want to know, so they'll maybe send you a note, email, text you, and it's kind of gone. And I always give people the permission to do all kinds of different kind of food journaling. So, whether it's an Excel sheet they make and they email to me, just a note sheet of paper, and they scan it to me, and I can look at it, online. Or if you're working with people in session, like in an office setting live, they can be writing that. Let's say this is note paper. They can just write their food down, cover it with a sticky note, and go all the way down the list. Like, I don't want to see my food. It triggers me too much. It makes me feel like I ate too much, too often, too many items, whatever, and they don't want to see it. Have them covered up, that kind of stuff. That's actually what I do to help people not feel so overwhelmed by it. So for those of you who that's just not part of my practice, I don't review people's food that often. Just to say something about that is that that's not a requirement. I know that people do all kinds of practices, but what I do know is that it's really hard when people tell you, I feel like I eat too much. And if we don't actually have a sense of what their food looks like, it's hard to say anything about that. Well, how do you know you eat too much? And they'll tell you they might tell you your food. And then if they tell you that, unless you kind of have an idea of how their body typically works, or what phase of maybe, if there are any kind of, if you have let's say you have a chronic dieter who's been eating a really low amount of food for a long time, and then, they've been eating more normally, and maybe they've gained some weight, but you see their intake, and it's like, well, that's not really too much food, but they feel like they've gained some weight, or they're weighing themselves. You want to be able to know, like, well, that's to be expected given they were so restricted, and now their metabolism is maybe improving a little, but they're easily gaining weight on a normal amount of food. Those are some things you want to know, so later down the line, like 6 months later, you're not so surprised that they gained 20 pounds. And I like to be able to give people some context for everything that's happening, so they are more subtle. And this is the reason I like to do food journaling. And again, I don't, at the beginning, for some people I do it all the way through our time together, and for some people it's like we do a little bit, and then the food is kind of settle or stable, and we kind of move on to a different topic around body image or self-care, more decoding, those kind of things. But I always kind of try to keep a beat on what's happening with their food. So if they want to go back to dieting, if their food's starting to look a little funky again, it's easy to be able to get right to it and decode it quickly, and so they can get back on track more quickly. And so if they do feel like their food is chaotic, I would highly recommend, if they haven't been journaling before, to try to help them, encourage them to do it in some kind of way, so we have a place to start from. Again, so if you have clients who don't want to journal, it's too triggering, it makes them go back into either a shame spiral or some OCD kind of stuff. And for some clients like that, it's not helpful for them to be journaling. You need to have them review somehow, because then it's, again, unless they're really like, I'm not going to talk to you about my food, I'm not going to do it, then of course you respect that. But if they don't mind talking about it, they just don't want to write it down, that's fine. But you want to have them keep a day in your mind of something we can talk about, because you don't want to be really caught surprised if their weight increases or decreases because you don't know much about their food, and then it's kind of hard to kind of know what's happening. So try to keep a beat on their food in some kind of way, even if it's not totally direct. Maybe spend a few minutes on it. If it's, as dietitians, we spend probably a good bit of time on it. If you're coaching, that maybe not have to focus every session or maybe every couple of sessions, but you want to go back around and check again, how is your food, what's happening. And if they can't really locate their signals very well when they're describing that day of food that they review with you, coach or dietitian or not, we've got to kind of slow them back down and get them back to basics, because it leads to something when things feel chaotic to be able to hold on to. And that's why I think using a tuned, they have some, if they're past the meal plan stage, and that kind of containment, if they're in intuitive eating work, and the life is feeling kind of out of control, and they're really feeling uncomfortable in their body, and a lot of that stuff is kind of firing up again, you need to look at their food, because it will tell you what's going on, and it's a place that you can always get them grounded back to. So I hope this was helpful. I kind of rambled a little bit all over the place, but I want you to understand that having a beat on what's happening with the food is really, really helpful, and it's a doorway in when they feel chaotic to be able to ground them somewhere. And then give them some intervention to go forward to help ground if they're going through any chaos. Or when I say chaos, it could be like literal the food's chaotic and all over the place, whatever life is, and it's something they can like not control, but it's something that they can like, okay, this is something I can do. This is something you can focus on for care. This is something that can bring me back to some slowness. If they're a person who's hyper controlling everything, that's chaotic too, actually. That tells me that like internally, they might not look on the outside like there's chaos, but internally there's a lot of chaos. And they may be holding on too tight, and we need to help them see where that's at and what is it they're trying to control. So that's how food journaling helps, whether it's on a piece of paper, on an app, on whatever, or if they just tell you from their memory, then we want to be able to explore that with them, and that's going to help them ground all kinds of other things they want to talk about. So thank you so much for watching this. If you have any questions, please put them below, tag me, and then remember Fridays we do a Q&A of any questions that I haven't talked about this week, something that's been burning on your mind. I would say this Friday, I won't be doing a 10 a.m. one. It's going to be probably closer to the afternoon like I did last week. I'm thinking of maybe me switching it to, afternoons possibly. So we'll see how that goes. And it might be a good idea for me to be consistent about that. So I'll make a note about that, then maybe schedule it for a different time. So anyway, be looking out for Q&A Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern this week. And we'll go from there. So have a great day. I would love to hear about actually on Fridays we're also going to talk about what you've been working on this week, any successes you have. I'm going to talk a little bit more about what I've got going on. I know you guys kind of know that the new free gift is out, so I'm super excited about that. It seems like there's been a good response in terms of people being interested in it. So if you've used it or if you've read it, if you have any comments about the worksheet, if you have any comments about the audio, please let me know. And I'm always up for making adjustments if something would be more useful to you. So thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.